When I designed my stamps for PaperArtsy, I did them with people who weren't able to draw, didn't feel confident to draw it in mind. And I'm going to share with you a little technique where you could get your journal page to look like you've drawn yourself, but using a stamp and then using some watercolours. Here's one of my girls. I do lots of drawing in this little journal in pencil and then go over it in some pen and then watercolour with it, and I thought I'd show you how you could achieve that same sort of technique by stamping. In a little watercolour journal, and this is one of my challenges this year, is to try and fill this journal up. So I'm going to work on a bit smaller page rather than a double page, and we'll just get started. So I've got my girl, I'm going to use this one today, and I'm using an archival ink pad, but it's just a grey one because we don't want anything too dark. So I'm going to ink up my stamp well, and then I'm going to stamp it on the page. There we go. And it doesn't matter if your image isn't particularly clear or there's any bits missing, because what we're going to do now is to make it look like our own drawing, we're going to sketch over the top. I've got some pens here I'm going to use. Let's just get started. So we're just using the grey ink as guideline, and you're just basically tracing over them. And it doesn't matter if you go wrong, because actually what will look nicer to make it look more sketchy or sketchily is if you sort of double them up, and if you miss the lines it doesn't matter. Actually going over those double lines makes it look more like you've sketched it yourself. I'm not worried if I'm going to go back over here. See how it looks. Actually looks quite nice if you go over the frame as well, because it does look like you've sketched it. Yeah. So you just need to sketch all over your image. I'm going to do around my frame as well. I'm not going to make this too formal. Just going to turn around this. Whoops, so this is where if you make a mistake or you think it's gone off the line, it doesn't really matter, because what we do is to make it all tie in, so we're going to go over it to possibly even 3 times. And it looks like you've just sketched. Okay. Now I'm going to go slightly off piece here because I like the shape I've created, so I'm going to try and sort of create a frame around here of a similar style, I think. Again, I'm working at a funny angle here, so I've gone a little bit awry, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, keep that same look there. So now I've got my image sketched, and I'm going to just let it dry for a minute or two. Okay, so I've let it dry, and also I've decided to go in where we won't say a mistake, we'll say a design feature. Sort of made this small tunnels and just sketched around here, and that's simple to do. And actually I'm just wondering whether I might just do a similar thing on this side. We'll have a look now. So I'm just going to bring this across a bit. I'm just going to do that. I don't think I want more circles, but I'm going to go in with that sort of look round the edge again. So it's almost like you're looking into a camera lens maybe, or something like that. There we are, so I'm going to leave it like that now. I think I'm happy with that. So I did go in and actually stamped a quote there that I felt was in keeping, and used archival black. So now it's time to actually do that watercolour technique to make it look like you've done your own watercolour painting. So I've got some neo colours here that I'm going to use today. And we'll start with some of the skin tone, I think. And what I've got is a very small brush, and put some water before I do any actual applying of colour. I'm going to put some water on here just to help my colour move a bit nicer. Just put in a nice thin layer. Applying it straight from the stick, and a little bit of water just helps it move nicely and not pull too much. I'm only putting that thin layer on to start with, and then I can build up, but you sort of try and let that dry. So if I show you this time, I know I haven't actually puddled any water on there, and you can definitely see it goes into sort of darker tones straight away, but you can add some water pretty quickly. I'm going to leave that just to dry out before I put another layer on. I'll go to the hair. That's the only thing with watercolour, sometimes it is worth actually leaving it to dry. You get a little bit more control over it then, because watercolour I know is sometimes a bit scary because you do have a lot less control and it's not so easy to correct mistakes. But I'll just go in with a drop of water and I think we'll make blonde hair. It's quite yellow, it'll be fine. So I'm basically just applying a base coat to start with all over my image. It does just puddle into, this is where if you leave drying time it's less likely to bleed into the other colour that you've done. Right, that's the base colour there. So I need to leave that dry now, and then I'm going to use a bit bigger brush to do the background, and I'm going to just apply a wash over there as well. I'm a bit cautious where my image is for now. Time allows. Right, now the one I did here, I did in blue, so I think we'll go with that today. So I can show you how I created that effect. So I've got a fairly light blue here to start us off, just to get that wash and base coat. You'll see at the top of my journal page there's some black, which was from an image I created before that's obviously leaked through, so somehow we're going to try and tie that in with sort of shadow around there, and then it'll all blend in nicely. I haven't gone right to the edge, so then I can just pull that in gently. Right, so while this is wet, I'm going to go in with a different shade, more turquoisey. Puddle it in. Change brushes to this one here, sort of a fan brush. I'm going to wet it, and then it just helps the texture, I think, a little bit easier. Back to that other blue that I started with. Swap into the turquoise again. There we are. So I really do need to let this dry before I can go on to the next layer. Right, so this is drying out a little bit, but we're going to go in with the next layer and I'll show you how I finish off my page. So this time I'm not adding any more water because I want to try and add some shading. I'm going in directly with my Neo colours along here, where I think there would be sort of a shadow. If you don't like the way it's blending, then just add some water. Same along the hairline this side, and around the cheek, and again that's getting quite dark, so I'll just get some water just where the edge is. I'm just going to blend that out, and along the neckline and under the chin where there would be shadows, and again some water and just pull that out. If you're worried you've got a bit too much of a puddle, just dab it. Right. Okay, so I'm going to move away from there for now, and I'm going to go in, I am going to go in with another yellow, and then I'm going to go in with a different shade, I think. Yellow on the outside here. Probably see that I'm moving my brush out of shot, and all I'm doing is just dabbing it onto a piece of scrap paper or a towel or something, just to get rid of the excess moisture. Okay, so I am going to go in with a different shade now. Okay, so I'm going to put sort of a shadow, the hairline, and going underneath there, and along this side as well. Again, you can take it. Right, some shadow in the hair now. Right, I'm going to go back around the edge of the image now. I'm going to go in with a darker shade. Sort of going to work around the edges here of my sort of design, which is looking in that sort of tunnel. Smooth it out. There we go. Try a bit more, I think. A bit more water here, and then I can sort of put it in. Now to smooth those edges around. I'm not going to overdo the background, I'm going to try and keep that quite simple. Fan brush again, just to add a little bit of a different colour. Sort of blends in, almost adds a texture to it if you don't apply too much water. It will smooth it nicely then. Right, so I haven't finished the face yet, but the background I'm not going to want to do much more to. I'll do that, mask the face out, and then maybe we want to go in with the same colour or different. Okay, so I've got a slightly different shade. I think this is a bit wet maybe still, but we'll try and mask that out. So I'll just show you what I'm doing. I'll put my stick and I'm really wetting it. And hopefully, if we're lucky, it'll let us spritz a bit of ink on there. Now I think my background may be a bit too wet for it to look really defined, but we'll just see what happens. Hopefully, if we lift that off. Hey, it's not too bad. I think it is a bit wetter, maybe, and I should leave it to dry out, and then you'll definitely get the splatters a bit more clearly. I've certainly got splatters on my mat. So I'm just going to dab just a little bit. To ease that down. I think I am going to let it dry and then hopefully go in with another layer that we can finish off. For the third layer, and I think will probably be the final layer, I'm going to go in, really dry this page out now. So more flesh colour. Water. This time it's much drier. I'm not really putting so much moisture on it to really shade it. Just drying the edges there, and then you really get that sort of dimension and shadow, but just using the same colour. I might go in with some pencil crayon just for some extra shadow when it's dry. Okay, I'll dab the cheeks with a little bit of water, and we'll see if we can apply some pink. Whether that might be better done with some watercolour pencils at the end. Let's have a look. I'm sort of almost dabbing the colour on now because I want it in a specific place. I don't want it to get too dark. And just puddle that colour out a bit. So I don't want the pink to spread too far. I'm just going to dab it a bit. So I'm basically taking the stick and working a bit extra colour, but with not too much water, and pulling it out. And the eye, I think that looks okay. Quite a lot of water on this side still. I'm happy with that though, I think. Okay, a tiny bit just there. Right. Lips. I really don't want much water here either. hair, I'm going to get the brown and just in the shadow now, or where I imagine the shadow would be, so under the hairline there, the nape of the neck. There we are. So now we're starting to get that shadow effect just by adding a different shade. I think it's looking too dark, then just add a bit of water and put it out. And then I'm just going to take a little bit. There. There we go. Nice. We'll go in green for the eyes. Okay, right now I haven't actually got a black neo colour, but I want to sort of make this darker and also blend that splodge that came from the last page. I did. I'm just going to go around with, because actually I've just scribbled a bit of Stabilo or pencil on a scrap of paper and I've just activated it with water. Just pull that out of it now, hopefully. It's around there. Still creates that sort of tunnel effect. Right. Okay. And I think I am just going to go in with a bit more blue again. Okay, so I'm going to dry this with a heat gun I think now, and then hopefully we can have another go at the splatters. Mask that image again, get a nice big brush, and my, always test it if you want to when we do the splatters, but you need, okay, there we go, that's better. So you can see it's definitely puddling. Just apply a nice bit of water, don't want to overdo it. I think probably lift that up and call that done. There we are. Actually, I'd just like something a little bit closer to the face if I can, but you don't get a lot of control over this. There we are. I think we've just about done it. Okay, cool. So I'm going to leave that dry and then we'll just do a little bit, last bit of shading on the face. Finish off by adding a tiny touch of shading. I've got black here, pencil crayon, I'm just very lightly, hardly touching the surface. It's going over my line and pulling it out where the hairline is. I'm going to do exactly the same, hardly touching, and then you can always add more pressure if you want to. And do the same down here, pulling it in a bit, adding that little extra shading, little extra depth, in the line, slightly in the line there, under the chin. I'm going to sort of go around the frame a little bit. As well, so again you're almost going in with that sketching but without doing too much. Right, now the eyes, let's see if we can just put a little bit in there under the eyes, again pressing really lightly. And I'm just going to get a darker green and just go into the eye there just a tiny bit, and then sometimes just pulling a little shade. You're not giving her eyeshadow as such, but just shading with the same colour that you use in the eyes is sometimes quite nice. Pull that back a little bit. So. Apply a little highlight there. It needs to be a little bit dry. I think it's still a little bit wet, but it'll be fine. Okay, so let's have a look at these cheeks again. I'm hardly applying any pressure, but although I put some pink on with that watercolour, I'm just going to go in a bit there. Down the chin, neck. Okay. on the lips. And sometimes it's knowing when to stop, isn't it? And I think a little white highlight down the forehead and towards the nose. I think, apart from just going in with a little bit more black round there, and there, and there, I think I'm calling her done.